Welcome everyone who are listening to and perhaps watching Hot Sauce Sports. We are still quarantined. There's still no sports, but we're still talking. I'm your host, Peeze and I am of course joined by my co-host, you went to the Pacers hat, Terry. I thought you still wearing the Mets hat from before.
Oh, no.
Terry Tan joining us from his location. How's it going, Terry?
It is going very well. As you see, I'm on the casting couch. I got myself some art, just so I can show you guys, what's going on here. And we're going good, man.
I have some art too.
I didn't get AIDS yet, so we're good.
I got some roses painted in the background.
Oh, yeah. See. No, we won't. See.
Duke, how's it going?
Not bad. No, I try not to be too bored there. Holding down the fort. Kind of getting bored without all the sports.
How close, Duke? How close have you become to your wife leaving you?
Pretty close.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I can't imagine you being confined is a good thing.
Oh, it's hard. I'm a free bird, man. I'm a free bird.
I would, out of all three of you, the only person I'd want to get stuck with is Eagle.
Thanks, man.
No, you're crazy. You're fucking crazy.
I feel like I could get stuck with Duke because we lived together for so long.
For a long time.
Yeah, but think of the reason why you moved out to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I moved out first.
okay, so vice versa.
I know I'm a disaster. So I know I'm tough.
Imagine the peace and tranquility you had when Duke moved out for the first time.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, there was only a period of like 2 months, but still. Yes, I'm glad to hear you guys are all doing well. One of the things we keep doing this, sort of COVID update. One of the things I've recently realized that I'm constantly doing since this all started is I'm constantly cleaning my bathroom because, my God, I must take a lot of shits at work. My bathroom never gets this dirty, and like every 2 days, it looks like someone just melted a whole bunch of chocolate popsicles right in there, stuck to the sides, and I gotta clean that shit off.
So I've never really had like the shit that sticks to the toilet bowl, but you're right. I don't know, maybe it's the diet that we have now because we're quarantined, that maybe it's the same kind of food. But yeah, my shit's sticking to the bowl for some reason.
I think what it might also be is that when you're because you work in like a culinary school, right? So it's possible that the food that they're feeding you is actually not all that good because they're still learning, and you do a way better job at it. So you get a lot more density, let's say, in your juices.
Yeah, it's also possible. It's also like these like low flow toilets that the rating is as high as like the regular toilets, but I'm gonna tell you it's not. Like you can try to flush a kitten down there, it's not gonna work.
Why would you want to flush a cat down the toilet bowl?
Well, I mean,
why would you want Carol Baskin to come after you and kill you?
That's a good point. Well, what if it was previously killed by Joe Exotic?
That's a good point.
Gotta get rid of it.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens.
Did you actually see Jimmy Kimmel did an interview with Carol Baskins?
Jimmy Fallon, and it wasn't
Jimmy Fallon. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. But it wasn't actually him. It was all like clips, basically, that someone edited together.
It was these two guys. I saw the making of it. These two YouTubers. Yeah. They're from England, I think. And they basically took a bunch of Jimmy Fallon's interviews, mashed them up, and asked Carol Baskin a bunch of questions as if she did the interview. It was the only interview she had ever agreed to do. And with Jimmy Fallon, they even convinced her, they're like, she's not even on camera. Like, he's not even on camera. Like, you won't see him, but you're going to hear him. And she's like, oh, okay. She's so dumb.
Yeah. Well, in the Tiger King news, Terry, you and I both said we like, when Dax Shepard tweeted out that he should play Joe Exotic whenever they made the movie. I decided to do a show, and for the first time ever, Nicolas Cage coming to the
rescue.
Team, which is testament to the fact that there is no role Nick Cage won't take. But for us Nick Cage fans, there's no way this can be bad. It's the greatest combination of things. It's Nick Cage and Tiger King, Joe Exotic in one world, just basically giving me mind sex.
I'm a sexy cat.
I'm picturing Nicolas Cage from Con Air doing it, with the mullet, the long hair, kind of like calm, but like just pulls out a fucking machine gun and kills everybody.
Yeah.
Kills all the cats. Imagine the last scene of the movie. He has like a machine gun and he's annihilating like 17 cats. That'd be amazing.
And he has like he forces them to wear Carol Baskin masks first.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Duke, you gonna stream that when it comes out?
Stream. What are we talking about? I thought we were talking about
Tiger King. You need to pay a minimum amount of attention.
No, I was. You guys are rambling. I don't know. I'm big on Nicolas Cage, but I don't know if I would be able to do a whole show.
I mean, he's the greatest American thespian, right? So
he's
a volume shooter.
I feel like when people say thespian, I know what it means, but I feel like it's a perverted thing.
Yeah, it means that
it's not a lesbian with a T, Terry.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say it's actually a theater actor who only has sex with other theater actors. Thespian.
Oh, okay. They do this.
Yeah, they do this. They theaterize. They theaterize. Boys, The Last Dance is out now. We don't have to wait for it like we would have to wait for Nicolas Cage playing Joe Exotic. We saw some interesting
worst segue ever.
Some of these episodes I found were the most engaging for me personally. The Dream Team went to play in the Olympics in 1992. I was 10 years old. I was into basketball already, but this cemented my love of basketball. I had a Team USA Patrick Ewing jersey, number 7, that I absolutely loved. Wore it everywhere, all the time. I loved that era in time. And there's this whole story about Tony Kukoc, who Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen took it upon themselves to like completely shut him down because of their issue with Jerry Krause, who was not paying Scottie Pippen but trying to negotiate to get Tony Kukoc to leave his war-torn country and come playing in Chicago. And like they completely took it out on him, even though he had no idea about anything that was happening in the Bulls because he was just trying to survive a war.
So Jerry Krause is the ultimate, like, you can't like him.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? He's just a weasel. He's like,
it's the way he looks.
Yeah.
He's told like Gary Bettman had this issue, right?
It's like Gary Bettman. He might be doing a great job, but you just can't like the guy. You know what I mean? And he's exactly like that. He has like little man syndrome. He always has something to prove. And Tony Kukoc, man, what a fucking player that guy was. Huh?
He was very good.
How sad was it to see Kobe at the beginning of I think it was the 5th episode? It really killed me because I was kind of having like a rough, like not kind of like iffy weekend, and just seeing Kobe there was just really got me. I don't know. Seeing him talk again.
Hearing what he said too. He was saying how he did like he asked Kobe for advice. To me, seeing Kobe in the All-Star game was sad because it was like he's 19 years old. That's the Kobe that we fell in love with,
Yeah, and what's interesting is I had heard interviews with Kobe talking about how influenced he was by Michael Jordan. He says, well, a lot. We were the same height. We played the same position. We attacked the court from the same, parts of the court. And so yeah, he's like, of course I studied. Why wouldn't I study like the greatest of all time and try and emulate that? And aesthetically, I remember first watching Kobe and I was like, oh, this guy looks like a younger Michael Jordan. And then, of course, his game evolved and so on, and he became a bit more of his own player. But when he first broke into the league, he was very much trying to be a Michael Jordan.
But also, what I liked about that whole All-Star game scene was that how Michael Jordan was like kind of angry that Kobe was getting like a lot of like hype. He's like, oh, that little kid, he ain't gonna do nothing, and he's like, I'll take him, I'll cover him, like basically saying like, I'll shut him down, like nobody's gonna get any hype train over me today. You know what I mean?
Like Michael Jordan seemed to have, and I guess this makes sense if you remember his Hall of Fame acceptance speech.
Yeah.
But I
just remember the crying emoji, the GIF.
Well, no, but he went out and he like went after his high school coach that cut him.
Jerry
Krause, like anyone who ever had any sort of negative impact on his life, he went after him. Like, and I remember at the time thinking like, man, like you're so great. How can these small people bother you? And he always seemed to like be creating this tension that never really was there.
Like, he was doing it on purpose, basically. He was trying to get any way he was trying to motivate himself in any way possible. I think what happens a lot of times with some players is that they get, when they have this sustained period of greatness, it's almost like they need to find new ways to. And LeBron does that too. LeBron does that too also.
The Clyde Drexler one was a stretch. Like he was like, you know what? Somebody on NBC said we're kind of the same.
Yeah.
Like,
by the way,
Clyde Drexler didn't even know that was said. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and he was so old at that point. It's like he's just picking on an old guy.
So I read an article and then about where his competitiveness comes from. I sent it to you guys. highly doubtful that you guys read it.
I actually read it.
No, I didn't read anything.
So I had the journalist on this week. I'm gonna post the episode tomorrow. I had him on, and we dove into his competitive nature, and it comes from his father. He always had to prove himself because he always had his brother. That was his father favored his brother. He was a much better baseball player. This whole thing, his father was like a good baseball player back in the day. He wears number 23 because his brother's number was 45, so he cut it in half, and it's like everything he's done in his entire life was to impress his dad and his older brother. And when they passed away, when his father passed away, he had to when his father passed away later on, but he got older, he kept on trying to prove himself. He had to prove himself to get drafted first overall. He never did. Okay, he has a chip on his shoulder there. Then he has to prove himself to make the starting lineup in a team with a bunch of old men. He has to prove himself there. So he always had to prove himself, and that's why he became the fucking nutcase that he is now. It's crazy.
Yeah. And then of course the second episode was largely about his gambling. And I love it when he says that he didn't have a gambling problem. He had a competition problem.
Yeah.
So why put money on
it? Admittedly, I think he kind of has a point though, right? Because there was never bankruptcy. There was never any risk of financial
because he makes $1 billion a year.
Yeah, but that's exactly it, right? Like if we go play a hand of poker and we put $20 in, we're like, okay, it's $20, whatever. That's like, I'm going to make this nice and simple for our audience. Like an hour's worth of work, right? How much does Michael Jordan make per hour, right? He's in the thousands of dollars. So our $20 is his 20 grand. So he can go and do $1,000 a hole because he doesn't give a fuck. It doesn't matter.
That's a good point. If you ask me if I'm a gambler, I'm going to tell you no, but I do bet on games once in a while. You know what I mean? So I get that.
That part of the show, my eyes rolled out of my head when I was listening to Mike Francesa, where he cut to Mike Francesa, and he gave the worst take I've ever seen or I've ever heard. And I've heard some bad sports takes, but like him talking about how he's basically saying that Michael Jordan, how could he be dedicated to the playoffs if he's out gambling at night? You know, it's like the guy just wants a break. Can you just give him a break?
But you know what? If LeBron did that, we'd probably hear a lot worse. If Kobe
but they do that. They all do it now. They absolutely do now. It's much more accepted than it was back then. You know, and it's just
But there's a lot of things where athletes get hated on. So, and one thing we'll talk about in a second. But to your point about Mike Francesa, I was watching with my wife Natalia, and I paused it when it got to like the journalist talking about the Michael Jordan thing and criticizing him for not taking it seriously because in the hours he wasn't working, he went to the casino, which
exactly
like they're like making a big deal that he got home at 2 a.m. Like basketball players, what time do you think they wake up? Like they only get to the arena at like 4. You know what I mean? Like he probably till noon. Like it's all good. He was tired because basketball's a hard sport, you know. And
there's probably practices in the morning and stuff too.
Yeah, well, they might have a walkthrough, but usually in the playoffs they cut that down a lot because it's grueling to play that many games and at that level.
It was cool how they kind of showed how suffocating it was to be like a man of his position. I felt that there's one really good thing that the director did, and I always like to look at the artistic aspects of show making or movie making. And I thought one of the coolest things was like they showed this progression where it's like he wakes up, he's surrounded, he goes to the basket, he goes to the arena, he's surrounded, he gets onto the car. It's just constantly, and you felt the sense of I don't know, like claustrophobia just looking at that, you know. I don't know.
With the article that Terry sent us, that's what it said. It was like you want to be Michael Jordan for a day, you wouldn't want to be him every day. You know?
Exactly.
And the thing, the reason why I stopped it at that point was I told Natalia, I was like, well, yeah, see, like this is why we're doing Hot Sauce Sports. And she's like, what do you mean? She's like, what do you mean? Like you guys never take anything that seriously. I'm like, exactly that. the fact that like we would like the people who cannot compete at that level at all are criticizing what people do in their sport. And then the other side of it too, like Sam Smith talking about how his book is what pushed Jordan to be as great as he was. I rolled my eyes so hard. I was like, dude, Michael Jordan, like if anything, he just wanted to swat you like an annoying fly. You didn't push him to greatness. He was great, man, period.
I think my favorite part about the episodes was all the moms turning to you and saying, "See, this is why you listen to me. You know, you brush your teeth, you eat your greens, and you take a meeting with Nike when they want to sell your shoes."
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I was crazy about is that the whole Nike thing. I mean, obviously I knew that Nike wasn't as big as it is now, And I'm sure, and I knew that MJ brought it is big, one of the biggest reasons to why they are where they are now. I didn't know that they were a smaller company back then.
Yeah, they were mainly known as a track company, and at the Atlanta Olympics, they actually ran a guerrilla campaign where, because Reebok was a sponsor, and usually I think they had been for the Olympics for years and years and years. And what they did was they set up sort of these guerrilla booths all around the Olympics village, and they kept getting shut down by the cops because they kept being reported that, oh, well, Nike's here and whatever. But they got so popular for this guerrilla campaign, and they've been super aggressive in their marketing ever since they were even like they were saying documentary, a much smaller company. And so think of it though, at the time, they put their name on a rookie basketball player, not a team, a rookie basketball player, and gave him his own shoe. That in the 80s was unheard of. You hear that now. That's not something like they weren't talking about Zion shoes the way they are now if this didn't go the way it did with Jordan. And he almost did sign with Adidas, and it makes you wonder, obviously, as an athlete, he would have been as great as he is now, but does he become the world icon if he signs with Adidas, who doesn't do this, these big global marketing schemes that Nike does, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I think if you're Nike tough. Too, I mean, you're looking at it as, what do we have to lose, right? They already have the entire market. So, hey, if he blows up, we spend a little bit of money and everything. We make some sales. And that's what they said. I think they were looking at $3 million or something over the next few years or whatever it is. And so that's like a very conservative forecast considering what you're spending. And they get a crazy return and they essentially turn into a multi-conglomerate enterprise because of it.
It was 100.
It's not a hard risk reward from their perspective either.
They made $160 million in the first year, and they projected to make $3 million.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Imagine the guy in accounting who I forgot to carry a zero twice.
How crazy was it when the Olympics came around and he had to display the Reebok logo and he came up with this brilliant idea of just covering it with the American flag.
Because they can't say shit, right? They can't be like,
they can't say checkmate.
How dare you have the flag on your shoulder?
Yeah, smart.
But that's the thing, is that he had to be that way, right? Because he would never, even all those little things that he did, he would never become the guy. We wouldn't be talking about him today if he didn't go sign with Nike, if he didn't put the flag over his shoulder, if he didn't fucking call Jerry Krause out, at his Hall of Fame speech or whatever, like the type of guy he is, we would never be talking about him today.
If he didn't tell him that smoking a cigar would stunt his growth.
Yeah. How funny was that? That was fucking hilarious.
Most of his jokes are pretty lame. Like most of his shots at Jerry Krause is like, it's not super funny. That one was funny. I like that.
Yeah. How many little dick jokes do you think he made? Because they showed the weakest of them, right?
The cleanest possible ones.
Yeah, he probably had a lot of really nasty ones for sure.
I want to hear the Scotty jokes about him, like on those when they talked about how
on the bus. Yeah,
that's the ones I want to hear. The most petty thing I thought of, and I had mentioned before the show when I saw they were going towards the dream team. I told my wife, I said, I paused it. I said, they could probably talk about the situation with Isaiah Thomas. I had to explain who Isaiah Thomas was. Isaiah Thomas was a phenomenal point guard. He was out of this world, and he was left off the dream team. And Jordan can say that it wasn't because of him.
No, he didn't say that. He said I never mentioned him. Yeah, but I never mentioned him by name. But
everyone knew that if Isaiah was on the team, you weren't going to have Jordan.
It's not only that, is that I honestly get the feeling that if he was on the team, you wouldn't get a lot of people. Because Isaiah, I don't know much about Isaiah Thomas. He was never in my era, literally never. And I know that he's a hated guy. You know what I mean? Never seen him play.
He played on a hated team. He's never, there's also some stuff with some Me Too stuff in his past when he was an executive for the Knicks.
Oh, there you go.
He's not, by all accounts, he's not a good person. Most people think he's dishonest. Most people think of him as kind of an asshole. Yeah. And Michael Jordan spoke to it, specifically calling him an asshole on this. I actually really like that aspect of this documentary, is that Michael Jordan's personality was curated for so long as this clean-cut dude and whatever.
Now he just gets to go all out and just be like, fuck you, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I love calling people out while he's smashing whiskey. Love it.
Did you notice his finger? it like bends the other way. I couldn't stop staring at it for like 10 minutes.
Wait, how many times have they probably been hit in the hand with a ball and it just slowly bends in one direction, right?
Well, like Jerry Rice's fingers are all fucked up. Like it makes sense. Like basketball players and football players and receivers specifically.
Be totally grossed out. Like Google basketball players' feet. Like look up LeBron's feet.
Or Brian Baldinger's finger, his pinky.
Yeah, that was nasty.
Still is. It goes the other way.
So Terry, you
fix it.
You spoke to Seth Sugar and lawyer Fred Pinto.
And Fred Pinto, yeah. So we had it was a good conversation. We spoke for an hour. Fred introduced me to Seth. I reached out so we can have them on so I can talk about Last Dance to them because I really liked his article. And these guys are they're almost 40 years old, and that was their era, right? So I wanted to talk to them, and it was a fun conversation with them. It was pretty cool to get their insight on like how it was. And they spoke about the Be Like Mike commercial and how these guys are two Jewish kids, you know what I mean? And they're like, fuck, I want to be like Mike. You're so far away from being like Mike, but they still wanted to be like Mike, you know what I mean? And it just goes to show the effect that he had.
I remember going to school and like singing that song.
Yeah.
Like it was a thing. Like for anybody who played basketball, for anyone who loved the game, like that, those commercials, those Gatorade commercials were like a voice of a generation.
Yeah. It was so we dove a little deep into the competitive nature and what made him tick and LeBron comparisons and why he is the guy he is, and we're actually looking into doing like a 6-part series about different eras of basketball. So Peeze, you're gonna come in on that with us.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. Again, I've been super swamped at work, but at the end of the tunnel, I should be able to join you.
You're better at talking that era of basketball than I am anyway. So yeah. So yeah, it was fun. I'll probably post it Thursday. And then Friday.
Terry, I'm going to give you a series of words, and you tell me where you're being surprised by it.
Penis.
Breaking quarantine.
Okay.
Jacksonville. UFC. Are you surprised at all that UFC is the one to be like hosting sports?
So I'm not the one thing that I'm most surprised by the UFC hosting an event. I'm second most surprised that they're breaking quarantine. And I'm third least surprised. Sorry, I'm the least surprised that Florida is actually doing it.
Yeah,
because Florida is going to Florida when Florida.
At all time. In fact, the most surprising thing I could have said was, "Hey Terry, I saw this newspaper article. It said everything's normal in Florida."
But they're doing 3 events in 8 days. The UFC, which is great for me. I love it.
I mean, I feel bad for anyone who might get sick,
but they won't. Right now they all the fighters usually have to report like maybe 5 days before the fight. They go through, they do their testing, their drug testing, they get their gear, all that shit. A lot of them had reported like 3 days before. So all of them are getting tested. They're all getting their antibody test, everything is getting done perfectly. If you have the virus, you're not participating. And it's like, they're doing it properly. They're doing it properly.
It's better than WWE, who forced people who had health issues and did not do any testing.
Exactly.
In WrestleMania.
Because the show must go on.
Yeah.
And I as much as I'm like, yeah, maybe they shouldn't do it, but I'm like, if you do the right things, like life doesn't stop, right? I can still go to the grocery store. I can still go to work. You know what I mean? If your company allows you to work, like Peeze, you went to work today. Why stop these fighters from working also? It's a little different, obviously, but they need to work. Some of these guys rely on those paychecks to make ends meet. A lot of these guys make $40,000 a fight. And they fight twice a year. If they miss one fight, like you're not feeding your kids, you're not feeding your family. You know what I mean? It's tough. And so I think Dana White's doing the right thing. Bob Arum, famous boxing promoter, has been ripping Dana White all over the media. And Bob Arum has always been the salty old guy that doesn't know how to change his old ways. And he sees Dana White that's changing the game. And he took MMA from being illegal to being the biggest sport in the world at this point right now. And Bob Arum is fucking bitter. He's like, oh, they shouldn't be doing it. No. If Bob Arum had a brain, he would have done it because he's chases money just as much as Dana White does. So all these guys are ripping on Dana White and the UFC for doing for putting on the fight. They don't realize the level of organization that it takes for him to actually do this. And they're doing it properly so far.
Yeah. And he promised at the beginning of this that he would be the first sport back, living up to his word, I guess.
Always.
But, more than that, I'm happy just that we have this to watch. And perhaps the thing that I found surprising wasn't anything relating to this. And we'll talk about Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje in a second. For me, it was the rumors of Conor McGregor and Jorge Masvidal, it looks like this fight's going to happen, Terry. Even though Dana White has said at every turn that he wasn't going to do it because there's no way Conor could keep up with Masvidal. Masvidal is going to rip his face open, right?
Nope.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Size doesn't worry you at all?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. I mean, as much as I love Masvidal, he's a great fighter. His last fight against Nate Diaz, he picked him apart. Nate Diaz is a guy who likes to take punches. Conor doesn't take punches as much as Nate Diaz does. He knocked out Ben Askren in 6 seconds with a flying knee. Freak accident, freak play. Great way to finish.
But he had studied a lot of film, and he saw that he would have had the opportunity to go for the knee right away.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was like a thing where it's like, if I don't get him, whatever. But if I get the knockout right away, I'll take it, right?
But Ben Askren's an idiot. He shoots right away. I mean, the guy's expecting you to shoot, right? So, but for Conor likes to. He doesn't get hit a lot, and he keeps his distance, and he's a counter puncher. So if Masvidal comes in, look what Conor did to Jose Aldo. Like one punch, Jose Aldo came in trying to knock him out, and then Conor knocked out Jose in 13 seconds. So it's not as easy as Masvidal's going to destroy him. Conor's fought at that weight class before, so it's not a problem. He's a big guy. He's a big guy for his size. He's got huge hands, and he's decent on the ground. I think he's a little bit better than Masvidal is on the ground. Standing, he's better. I mean, I don't see how Conor can lose this fight, but I do see. I can picture Masvidal maybe like winning 2-3 rounds and winning like a split decision kind of thing.
Question.
Yeah.
So now, because most of us are pretty cheap, we don't like usually buying UFC events.
Yeah.
Now that there's no sports going on, are you guys more interested in purchasing a UFC event?
Either way, I was gonna do it.
Well,
yes. I totally pay for UFC. I totally pay for it. I never watch it.
Never watched it.
I've tried watching it like on streams and stuff, and I just find like it's so hard because it just always freezes. And like it'll be good, and then just towards the end of the fight, I guess because there's more traffic, it's always so hard to find it. I don't know.
To be honest,
I'm gonna watch it on Fight Pass. If it's available on Fight Pass, you can watch 2 people.
Can we share it?
My password, yeah, I'll send you my password. I don't know if you're allowed watching 2 people at the same time. That's the only thing.
Just one of you watch it and put the stream on Zoom or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Why, so we can get taken out?
Let's not on Zoom.
Between us, you idiots, not fucking live.
Oh, yeah, we can do that.
Not Zoom. We'll use another platform.
It's okay. I'll show you how to do it so you don't fuck it up.
Yeah, well, I'll probably end up fucking it up anyway.
You will.
Yeah, last time you sent me screen caps of what to do and I still fucked it up.
Yep.
You know what, Eagle? Screw you, man.
Yep.
That was coming. It's been a while since I heard that. I was used to do that like once a week. Now it's.
You know what? Fuck you, Eagle, and your nerd shit. I'm gonna call you later. I need some help.
This is fine.
Terry. Terry, so are you excited for Ferguson versus Gaethje?
Yeah, I am because it's gonna be a crazy fight. It's gonna be a nuts fight. They're gonna kill each other. They are gonna die. One of them is gonna die.
I'm more familiar with Ferguson than Gaethje. He's just more of a for the common fight fan. Like I'll watch events now and again. I'm not as big into it as you are. I don't have the experience in sport that you do. What can we expect from Gaethje?
So Gaethje is a brawler. So I'll explain to you what Gaethje is. Gaethje is a world-class wrestler. D1 can kill most people wrestling. He, for some reason, never takes anybody down. He just tries to box them, and he gets.
Is that what a brawler is? I never understood.
He is a brawler. Like the brawler.
What's a brawler supposed to be?
Like he brawls.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
So the definition is like he just likes to.
You see that
fight.
Computer in front of you? Open up your browser and search for the word.
Picture 2 homeless guys fighting.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know when you send Terry videos of 2 homeless people fighting and asking
bump fights.
That's what that is. That's what
except with technique. With technique.
Literally, it's that.
Well, actually, I'm about to post one right now as we speak.
So it's an interesting fight. Tony Ferguson, I think he's gonna come out to win though. But
he's the more popular fighter. I think that's who most people are cheering for. But I take your word for it, Terry. We go now, of course, to somewhat of a more somber topic, something that hit me, sort of made me feel my own age as well as put into the age of others, the perspective. Don Shula died at 90. Terry, when Don Shula started coaching, he was the youngest coach, the youngest coach in the history of the NFL.
Yeah,
he went to coach the Baltimore Colts. Famously, was the coach of Johnny Unitas. When he retired, at the time he retired, he was the only coach in the history of the Miami Dolphins. This, of course,
since then there's been 74.
Yeah, there's been a nonstop carousel of coaches. He was embittered at the end of his career when he felt disrespected because he felt Jimmy Johnson was trying to come after his job while Miami was struggling. Miami media was pretty tough on him at that point in an era where the newspaper was more critical. They basically were saying, like, we need to flush Shula. We need to go out and get Jimmy Johnson. And like, to Shula's credit, not that I don't think he would have done much better at his advanced age, but Jimmy Johnson didn't do much with that era of the Miami Dolphins. Shula himself, there were some interesting stats that I heard after his passing. One of them was, do you know what his winning percentage was with backup quarterbacks?
Oh, no, that's a good question.
70%.
That's fucked up.
That is it. And a tribute to that is, who's the coach of the Eagles? Peterson. What's his first name?
Jordan
Peterson. Doug
Peterson.
Kyle
So
Peterson.
Doug Peterson.
It's Doug.
He looks like a Mike, actually.
Quarterback of the game. Don Shula broke the record for most wins as a coach. I didn't even know that Peterson played in the
NFL. I knew he played, but that's impressive, man. That's Don Shula. He's for sure one of the best coaches of all time. He's the only coach to coach an undefeated team. I mean, he was the Dolphins in the 70s, right? So
yeah,
and R.I.P.
Look, I mean, obviously I wasn't around in the 70s, but growing up and having watched them through the Marino era, so like there was just a link to me of Don Shula and when I was a more impassioned sports fan before the Dolphins beat it out of me by sucking, I used to say, take to my grave, Don Shula is the greatest coach who ever lived. Bill Belichick would need to coach something like 6 seasons and average 10 wins each of those seasons to catch Shula for his record.
Shula had a winning record against Belichick, actually. There was a stat. He was like 3-0 for the Manson.
No, I think at that time he was coaching the Browns. So.
Browns, I was going to say.
That's what it is.
And he was a young coach, so he figured, rookie mistakes. But
still, stats don't lie.
All the winning that Belichick has won. I can't even remember the last time the Patriots won less than 10 games in the season. And he's not even close to
when Brady got hurt. 2006?
I think they went 9-7, or they went 10-6.
Yeah, 2006.
Head-to-head to make it to the playoffs.
No, wasn't it 2010? Could it have been 2010?
I think it was 2010.
They got hurt.
Whatever. Yeah. When Matt Castle played. Yeah. So I mean, R.I.P. to Don Shula. He was 90, man. And like you said in our group chat, when I meet you, that's the age you are forever.
Forever.
I thought he was 70.
Yeah. No.
When I first found out who Don Shula was, how old is he? I looked 70, stayed 70.
I was thinking about it. I was like, oh my god, like Don Shula's my dad's age, and then I was like, no, he's not. He's got 20 years on my dad.
And he beat COVID. It wasn't even COVID that beat him.
Yeah, no, but he was in a wheelchair for the last 5 years. He seemed to be in a lot of pain. He still otherwise, like other than being in a wheelchair, looked very good. I have a feeling that somewhere between the South Florida sun and South Florida Botox, he kept his looks up, looking prime. But yeah, it's definitely sad to see the passing of Don Shula. Terry, the NFL is doing something seemingly futile in releasing the schedule amid this pandemic. We don't even know if there will be football, when there will be football, if it's going to be played in front of fans, if we can purchase tickets to these games. But they're putting out the schedule, and my guess is just so ESPN can spend 72 hours discussing that just to get us to the next part of the documentary.
So releasing the schedule, I mean, I'm okay with releasing the schedule. The only thing is that they're already announcing that they're canceling games. They're canceling the trip to England, right? You said?
Yeah.
I had no idea. But that
the Miami Dolphins are going to play the Falcons.
Yeah.
And a friend of ours who's a Falcons fan saying, so we're going to London this year? And he's like, why? So I said, well, the game, the Falcons-Dolphins. And then he immediately sends me the article that I sent to you saying that they canceled games, and that was the international games, and that was yesterday.
And I believe the explanation was this isn't a good time to do international games, given the whole situation and that type of shit, which makes sense. I mean, you don't really want to put people on planes and then have people assemble.
Oh yeah, and I've hated the London games forever. I mean,
no, you're crazy.
Stupid.
But you think they're gonna go back to it next year though?
Games.
Like, why wouldn't
For
they?
sure.
It's a gigantic moneymaker.
How do you
Nothing
hate
better
wake
than morning games?
What?
How do you hate wake and bake games?
Yeah, the
The
game's
best.
11 o'clock. Okay, fine.
9 a.m.
No,
9 a.m.
9 a.m.
I want to get myself a little something, have some eggs, and watch the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans.
Not bad, man.
First of all,
Eggs are the best part about that.
I always keep that stuff for maybe a couple times a week, late at night, and I don't eat until 4 o'clock every day.
He's talking about eggs.
In general.
Okay.
I don't eat anything until 4.
He's talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars.
What are you talking about?
So a sport that's come back already is Korean baseball. The KBO is bringing us back. I believe they started playing on Monday. ESPN has already aired some games.
Can I gamble on it?
You can gamble on it.
Nice, right? Done. Sold.
One of the things that I found out just by sort of consuming media these days, Mina Kimes did her daily podcast, ESPN Daily, about Korean baseball. And
is she Korean?
I'm not sure. I think she is actually. Well,
she might be
American, but I think she's
Korean descent.
Yeah, Korean descent. But she actually did a piece on it years ago where she went down to study the game there because she had seen this video of Korean baseball players flipping their bats and it had gone viral. And like that's a huge part of it. Like they'll flip their bats after a strikeout, after a ground ball. It's just like they just have a different take on the game, like having fun. And it's so much. It's a culture that happened like within the last few years or so, and it became such a divide between Korean baseball and North American baseball that firstly when Chan Ho Park went back to Vietnam, he was like appalled that the Korean baseball players were flipping their bats and celebrating because he's like, well, but this isn't baseball because he had been in America so long that he couldn't believe that this was the case. And then on top of that, even though Mina Kimes had witnessed players doing it, players refused to acknowledge to her that they did it. Even though she'd be like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean backflipping? Like, well, do you guys do this on purpose?
It's not North Korea, it's South Korea, right?
South Korea.
Yeah, it is. I know what I'm saying, but like, so they have freedom of speech.
But it was because the thing is, so she in her report, they were so worried about what American baseball fans would think of them, or that they would be mocked for their tradition. Because
what's wrong with flipping a bat? I don't get it.
Well, unwritten rules of baseball, Terry.
I know it's these. We spoke about this a while ago. These rules, man. Like you can't look at you can't watch your ball. You can't. If you hit a guy, you have to like tip your hat to him or like don't stare him down or look away. It's all these weird rules that might start a brawl. Like relax.
Yeah, it just.
I looked it up, by the way. They finished 11-5 the year that Brady got hurt. They still, crazy. Sorry.
Yeah, and the Dolphins only won. The Dolphins only won the division that year because they had the tiebreak.
Yeah,
they both won 11 games.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's just like it just seems bizarre that baseball, with this aging fan base, doesn't try to keep the game fun that would help engage younger people to like your sport. Because in Korea, apparently, the crowd is lively. People are drinking, they're dancing, they're partying. There's music playing while the game's happening. It's just this like light, fun environment where people just go to the game to have a blast, and like baseball just happens to be happening while you're having a good time partying. Like that sounds cool to me, and I love baseball. I love baseball in any format.
Of course, anything we can watch at this point, I think we'll watch. I don't have ESPN, so I'm not going to watch Korean baseball. But if I turn on to TSN and there's some sort of game from some other country that's live, I'll watch it.
But I mean, think about it though. Like,
and I've been loving that.
The executives in MLB, I mean, just that whole board. How long did it take them to implement like basic instant replay and little changes and rules and everything to get with the times, right? Like they're slower than soccer, and that says something, Yeah. So like, you think they're really gonna want to change the culture, and this is the way you watch baseball, and this is the way you buy merchandise, and this is the way you sign players and everything? That's not gonna happen. I mean, you need basically some fresh blood. You need some guys right out of school with some good ideas to say, get the fuck out of the way, and we're doing shit our way now to make it interesting, or people aren't gonna come watch games. So I'm all down for K-pop during the seventh inning.
No, and it looks awesome. And to your point, Eagle, like think of how long it took Major League Baseball to get to interleague play.
Yeah.
we don't want to wait for the Mets to qualify for the World Series to play the Yankees because it'll never happen. So give us a Subway Series, and they did, and it's been immensely popular. It was one of the few things that got people back to watching baseball. Was when they introduced something as simple as interleague play, but they're so rooted in tradition that nobody actually legitimately cares about. It's only aging sports writers who care about these things.
Yep.
Speaking of writers, Terry, did you read my article about Cam Newton?
Did I? Yes, I did.
Yeah, okay. Didn't read it.
He's lying.
You read half.
No, I did. I had to edit it.
Yeah, you had to edit it. It's true.
But did you read it?
Yes, I did.
I can tell you someone who didn't read it.
It was very well written.
It was some douchebag named Philip Hamilton, who, without reading it, wrote, was this article written by someone white or someone black? SMH. Firstly, I'm pretty white. Secondly, no part of my article in any way or shape or form mentioned race.
But Peeze, nobody reads online ever.
They read the title. They read the title. They look at the picture and they'll be like, okay, I'm gonna make my entire assessment about this article based on the title and the picture. And your title was The Curious Case of Cam Newton. The curious case of Cam Newton is what? That he's a bad egg. That's what people assume because that's his perception right now.
My curious case was that he's not signed.
Yes,
that's it. That's all your point was. That's all it was.
I tell you, the bad egg argument. No coaches or players who've played with him or coached them have ever said anything negative about Cam Newton.
Yeah, it's not like he's calling Kaepernick or anything.
He's donated millions of dollars.
It's all because he didn't fall on the fumble at the Super Bowl. That's the only reason why people have built this perception that they keep running with.
Had he done that and gotten hurt, he would have been crucified for being dumb because you're not thinking of your team. You're just trying to react in the moment. You're dumb. You're stupid. Like there's no winning. No matter what happens, like we're forgetting that Peyton Manning threw the ball into the chest of the defensive lineman for an interception because they won the game. So like if the Panthers win that game, well, we don't care that he doesn't dive on the ball. But because they lose, all of a sudden he doesn't care about winning.
Well, that year he also won the MVP. He also brought his team pretty much single-handedly they had a good defense that year to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but it was nothing compared to the Denver defense that year.
Denver defense was crazy.
Record-setting defense, and like they were
Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, two Hall of Fame pass rushers on your team,
and
not to mention the cornerbacks
and the cornerbacks. Keep Talib on the other side. Who's on the other side?
It was Chris Harris Jr. Or also Champ Bailey. Was it possible Champ Bailey?
No, Champ Bailey.
No, I think Champ Bailey.
He was gone maybe a few years before.
They had to keep Talib though.
Yeah, they did.
So I mean,
snatching chains.
They weren't like the Panthers weren't favored to win that game at all. They were the underdog and they lost the game. It happened. Yeah. It was a good game too. It was a genuinely close game where Peyton Manning was awful and they happened to get by.
So funny story about that. I'm kidding. I don't have one this week.
Okay.
I have a good story about Peyton Manning's Hall of Fame speech.
Okay. Well, here, let's go for it.
All right. So
Did you introduce it, Terry? What's the point of me saying no?
So I was in California.
Okay.
At that point, it was in March, and he was set to retire. My flight, I was with my friend Eric. My flight was supposed to leave at like 10:30. Okay. So we wake up that morning. We go. We get bagels. I might have told the story before. We get bagels, the whole thing. We come back. We pack our stuff. We're taking our time. We see Peyton Manning's Hall of Fame speech on TV. We sit down. We start watching it. Cool. Our flight's supposed to be at 12:30. Sorry, 12:30, not 10:30. We go. We're on our way to the airport. I'm like, let me check. I look at my phone as we get to the airport. Our flight was at 10:30, not 12:30, and we missed our flight because of Peyton Manning's Hall of Fame speech. I blame Peyton Manning.
He played like trash in that game, and he missed the flight.
Also, I lost my parlay. I would have won like $1,200 if Peyton Manning got more than 1.5 yards rushing. He took a knee and made me lose the bet. Yeah. Fuck you, Peyton. Twice.
Piece of garbage. That's what people often say about Peyton Manning.
Yeah, he's a fucking asshole, and he's got a big forehead, and he looks like Tom Hanks.
He does. Terry, I don't know if you saw this story. The NCAA, they're exploring the possibility of allowing players to make money off of their name through endorsements and likeness rights and all that.
It's about time.
They're investigating whether or not they should allow football players to have the same rights and basketball players have the same rights as everybody else.
So the person that for badminton. So basically what they're trying to say is we're going to give you guys like 1% of all jersey sales, whatever it is. And that's what you're getting. So the badminton guys aren't going to get anything. Soccer players will get nothing. Baseball players won't get much. It's going to be football and basketball, which is good because they bring the most money.
But they're the ones who generate the income.
Exactly. So, I mean, I like it. I mean, it's a step in the right direction. We'll see what happens.
And like the thing is, they're not paying them a salary. They're allowing them to make money off likeness and off merchandise.
That's it, exactly.
Which is a basic human right for all of us.
It's like, I didn't know going to college meant that I give up all my rights.
Yeah, I didn't know that I was, therefore, because I took some history classes, that means now you can make millions of dollars while I make nothing.
That's it.
And a lot of this comes off the back of Jalen Green. Jalen Green is the #1 high school basketball player. A lot of people don't know him because unless someone has the hype of Zion Williamson in high school, we just don't know about them. But Jalen Green is the top NBA prospect. A lot of guys are saying that if you can come straight out of high school, he would be a top 3 pick in the NBA draft this season. So he's that good. And he's choosing to play in the G League for $500,000 because they've come up with a pathway. Rod Strickland, who's the next NBA point guard, he works for the G League. And he basically did a study saying like they had already created a pathway where players can make $125,000 to play in the G League instead of going to college for 1 year and then get drafted. Now, the thing is that this didn't work for a couple of reasons. One is that they can play in Europe and in Asia and make $300,000 to $500,000, and B, $125,000 is kind of a joke because these guys are making more under the table, right? Like we all know that at this point.
I mean, Joey Bosa is popular for saying that he made more money at Ohio State than he did with his first contract offer in the NFL. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
there's a lot of cash that they make on the side, and I mean, I'm sure they're still going to be making that stuff, but for the most part, I think the NCAA is just trying to get ahead of it. But with Jalen Green, is that why not go to the G League for 1 year?
So one of the proposals was, and it's Rod Strickland and there's another ex basketball player whose name I can't think of that are sort of like commissioners and VP of the G League. They were saying because running the G League is expensive, and it costs team more money usually than it's worth. Just like minor league teams eat up a lot of the income for major league teams. But one thing with the G League is they're talking about if they can get like the top 10 recruits or top 15 recruits, if they can offer them the ability to play there for $500,000 instead of going to play in the NCAA, they were saying that if they can get the top, let's say 10 or 15 recruits, it would get more people to watch the G League because you get, let's say like if Zion Williamson wasn't playing at Duke, instead he was playing in the G League. Look, we're already going to watch March Madness. Why not give us something other than that that's interesting? In this case, the G League.
Yeah, it's true.
It's not the same. No, it's not G League ever.
Well, but would you have watched it? Would you have watched it if RJ Barrett and Zion Williamson were playing in the?
Of course,
okay,
of course.
Okay. It's good that you said Zion because I've watched RJ Barrett and no.
You watched the XFL. You're telling me you wouldn't watch the G League? These guys are actually one step away from being pros. The XFL, there's probably a handful of guys on every team that are pros.
Yeah, the G League.
Better question. Like you guys are stalling. You guys are stalling. Give me a G League team and.
Listen, man, there's no other sports. It's the G League.
I can't either. Hold on. I'll get you some. You guys keep talking. I'll get you some G League.
One thing that's interesting, Terry, and I was curious about this, and we kind of touched on this with the case of Joe Burrow, and I said like
the main red clause.
Is there a chance that Joe Burrow was so successful because of the age and that he was so much older than some of the guys he's competing against? One of the concerns with these NCAA basketball players is that if you're 18 and you're going to compete against guys whose bodies are much more filled out at 23, 24, 25 years old, let's say, and guys who played either pro in Europe, played in the NBA, played in the G League for some years, playing essentially pro basketball, is there a risk that their draft status actually takes a hit because they don't look quite as good as Zion Williamson dominating.
So wear and tear after 1 year, you're saying?
Not wear and tear, but just they don't look as good as, let's say, like Zion Williamson. We saw him dunking on guys who basically are never going to have a chance to play in the NBA, but maybe he doesn't look quite as astonishing by playing guys on his level. Guys,
would you watch the Rio Grande Valley Vipers versus the Fort Wayne Mad Ants?
Yeah, 100%. Because
I'm an ant fan.
Yeah, I'm an ant head too. I want to buy a T-shirt of Fort Wayne Mad Ants.
The Windy City Bulls against the Westchester Knicks.
Westchester Knicks.
Yeah.
What's Westchester get Gary?
Where's Westchester?
That's a stress.
Nothing is Boston.
I'm on it.
That was in Boston.
I believe it's in New York State.
You're thinking about Winchester.
Yeah, Winchester's in Boston.
What were we saying before, Peeze?
No, I was saying that. So, is there a chance that their draft status would get?
So I don't think the draft status would. I mean, I'm sure it'll have an effect. I don't think it'll hurt everybody across the board. It might only affect like maybe the bottom half. You know what I mean? But I don't see it affecting that much. I think that they just need a system in place that allows you, if you don't want to go to university, whatever the case may be, and you just want to go play basketball, then go fucking play basketball. So, I don't understand.
But I have a question to pose to you, Terry. I am a guy who's looking to be a young executive in the NBA, right? Mm-hmm. And because I'm white, I get hired by the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, you're fired.
And there's nothing requiring me.
Okay, wait. You're hired. Okay, you're fired. You're fired. You're fired again.
Oh, God damn it. But there's nothing requiring me to go study for a year, right?
Exactly.
Why is it that the players are required to go play for a year?
It's because they don't want the draft to they want college, but NCAA and the NBA made this a rule. Yeah. Okay, so it's only NCAA that benefits from this. The NBA does not benefit from this, right? So to your point, would you see guys draft classes get hurt? Yeah, I guess so. But at the end of the day, for football players, you have to be 3 years removed from high school, right? In college, you have to be 1 year removed from high school. Just go do what Melo did. Go to Europe for a year. Learn how to play small ball a bit. Come back, and you learned a different style of basketball.
Well, it just the argument they always make is like, we wanted to expose them to university.
Kevin Durant did a lot with his 1 semester in Texas.
Tell me what Kobe Bryant would have developed by going to college. Tell me what LeBron James would have developed by going to college.
But like I say, Kevin Durant went to Texas for 1 semester just to play basketball, and he left. So what's the benefit in it? There's no benefit. Look at Andrew Wiggins, same thing, 1 year. Barrett, Zion, all 1 year. Like, what's the point? It's just for them to make money. And okay, you're not going to get maybe the top 20 recruits, maybe the top 20, and I'm exaggerating here. Top 20 would go to the NBA, the NBA draft, but for the most part, most of the stars would play in college anyway.
Well, we saw it before the one and done rule. We saw usually somewhere between 3 or 4 players straight out of high school on a good year. Yeah. Otherwise, it'd be 1 or 2.
I just think, and I said the same thing with the NFL. I think there should be a minor league, and the G League is kind of like a minor league, but it's not a mandatory one. So the NHL does it perfectly. Every team has a team that's a minor league associate. The NBA should do the same thing. They have long seasons. They should be able to go down, pick up players, bring them up. But it sucks that there hasn't been a system yet. But I don't know why. It's monetary. It's always
teams don't want to have a G League team because it costs money to run.
So you don't have to run the team, though. Like, the Habs don't own the Rockets.
Yeah.
It's just their associate, their affiliate. That's all it is. It's an affiliation.
In the G League, the teams are all owned by NBA teams.
I know, but change it. So the Fort Wayne Mad Ants, be owned on your own. Get an owner.
What you're saying is we should buy the Fort Wayne Mad Ants.
Just get an owner.
That's how you become an NBA exec.
Get an owner.
Dude,
you're still fired.
Yeah, you're fired.
Where'd you say, Peeze?
Where's Westchester?
It's New York. It's right near Sanford.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, that
so I think it's more Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, probably Connecticut.
And so I saved this for the end of the show because I miss Eagle. I love Eagle. I can't wait to hold Eagle in my arms again. Eagle.
This is fine.
There's something to do with some geek shit.
It's actually a pretty big deal. So thank you for setting it up so clearly.
Yeah.
Let me give some background on this, all right? So today, so first off, just like sports have been shut off and everything, esports are still running full steam. So
how can they operate? How?
You say that, but there's actually been major changes this year, actually. So
yeah, because like there's a whole thing about correct me if I'm wrong, Eagle, but there's a whole thing about they need referees at these events to make sure that people aren't cheating. And
there's
a whole bunch of rules.
There's a shit ton of stuff that actually runs. Now, the biggest thing is, and we're going to talk specifically about, I guess, Call of Duty and Overwatch, they both have their own leagues. So essentially, they're shooter games. League of Legends has similar stuff. But essentially, this year, Overwatch especially has tried to move to a true sports model where you have home and away games. So you literally would have people come watch you play at a stadium or whatever it happens to be. So they've had crazy success at the first few games and everything. Then, of course, the whole COVID situation fucked up all their plans. So now everyone's playing online instead. They've switched the model. That being said, today, the Vancouver Titans, essentially one of the teams that is owned essentially by the Vancouver Canucks and that ownership group and everything, decided to release every single one of their players and replace them with amateur or minor league players for their next game.
I get it.
Here's the story of this franchise. Last year, 2019, the Vancouver Titans are formed. It's basically an expansion team. So they buy in, pay a shit ton of money. We're talking multi-millions to buy a franchise, essentially, and decide to go to Korea and essentially sign an entire roster of players from the team called Runaway, okay? So imagine like it's a core of like 8 to 10 guys. They've played with each other for the last 2 years, and we say, we want every single one of you to play on our team. They get contracts, they get signed, whatever it is. That back then they were playing in Los Angeles, so the team sets them up in this nice house in like the valley, let's say. So you're all living inside there. You have a practice facility you go play with. They're so good, they make it all the way to the finals. They lose in the final game, so they finish second in the league. One of their players, Haskell, wins league MVP rookie essentially, so rookie of the year. Okay, really dominant series. This year
this is for Overwatch.
Overwatch, yeah.
Okay.
So this year,
that game I don't get. I don't understand that game at all.
It's because you're stupid. It's fine.
Also,
it's really complicated.
It's also stupid.
You're also stupid. Duke, you're stupid, but I don't need to tell you. You know. So this year, it's
so we're all stupid except for Ego.
So the games aren't based out of LA anymore. They're literally based out of all the different areas. So you got a team in Washington, you play in Washington. You got a team in Dallas, you play in Dallas. You got a team in London, you play in London. So the Vancouver team essentially relocates and puts themselves in Vancouver. So they're living on Vancouver Island. And what they ended up doing was they put them into not this big team house, but essentially a sports training facility with a dorm setup. So imagine like if you're doing NFL training camp or whatever it is. Yeah. Well, pretty much. But imagine like a sports facility designed for boot camps, right? So you have like a soccer field, a basketball field, a pool. So it's designed for sports, but they have an esports section of this. So these guys are living in essentially dorms or bunk beds. So the whole idea was, okay, we practice here. We get on a plane. We fly wherever we have to fly to play the games for that week. We fly back there. We're all good. COVID hits, so now they're stuck living out of this facility, and their families are back in Korea. They're all homesick pretty much, and they can't do anything. So they essentially asked the org, can we go back to Korea to spend time with our families? Also, the situation there is much better. So again, this story is really still breaking, so you don't know the exact details, but basically the management team said, okay, sure, you can go back, but we're not going to get you a team house or anything there. You're going to have to go live at home essentially, but play games and practice from there. So originally they go, okay, cool, I guess that's fine. But internet's a problem because usually you have your PC bangs. Food is a problem because now you have to buy it yourself. Usually this is all covered by the team and everything. So there's a lot of turmoil and tension apparently between the management group in Vancouver and the rest of the players in Korea and everything. Time zones are a problem now, etc.
Jerry Cross 2.0.
So we don't know exactly what happened, but there's a shit ton of drama that happened apparently behind the scenes that we don't know of. So we knew that something went down. They moved essentially the games back to North America to basically say we're going to play on the North American schedule instead. And so today they officially said we've released all of our players, every single one of them. We're signing brand new players from an amateur league who's going to play for us for the rest of the season.
Fuck, well, how come I didn't get called up?
Because you're not good.
You just said you don't know anything about Overwatch.
I mean, that would be the thing. I don't know the game, so maybe I'd be good at it.
He's
I
an
don't
amateur.
think it works that way.
Right.
I mean,
the minimum salary is $50K, so I'm not gambling $50K on your sorry ass.
Why?
Because you suck.
Yeah, but I'm entertaining.
Yeah. You don't have the dedication, man.
You're a visionary like Nike, Eagle. Why don't you be a visionary like Nike?
Yeah, but at least Jordan had talent.
You know,
See,
Eagle,
Terry can't even spell the game.
I'm getting all these shots. I'm just such a nice guy.
Yeah.
I never disrespected Eagle in any way. No, but one thing I will say about it's fucking nuts. Because the one thing I will say about this is that why would these guys mess with a bunch of nerds? They're just gonna hack your system and fucking put child porn on your fucking screen and shit, and then you'll lose. I would never fuck with nerds. Nerds are the last guys you want to fuck with this day and age. 100%. I'd rather fuck with Duke, who just knows how to make pictures, than fuck with.
Yeah, no, I don't know how to do any of that.
With dicks next to your face.
Yeah, but that you can tell it's Photoshop.
Porn on your computer, but I could put porn on your computer, but I'm not a pro.
Trust me, there's plenty of porn on my computer. I don't need you to put it there.
Yeah, they just need help.
What I'm saying is, I would not fuck with nerds. And Eagle,
the story that I loved was Denny Hamlin was in a race and was leading the race and lost the race because his daughter turned off the TV. That made me laugh. I love it. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you.
For sure, buddy. It's been fun.
So, Terry, looking forward to seeing your interview up there. You're doing the Lord's work. You're carrying a lot of the weight, but I am down to give you a hand with that basketball series.
For sure. I'm having a blast. You know, people just message me. They're like, I want to do this. I'm like, cool, let's do it. You know?
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. Terry, thank you for joining me today. Duke, thank you as well. Thanks for paying attention once in a while.
Yeah.
Eagle, thanks for keeping it all together. Your hair looks terrible.
It's the worst.
It's pretty bad. It's worse
this
than
is fine.
This is fine. Remember, you've been listening to Hot Sauce Sports.
You've been listening to Hot Sauce Sports.
I'm supposed to do that.
Oh,
not you. I didn't. It's fine. It's been done.
Thank you.
Okay. See you guys. Take care. Ciao, man.
Eagle, keep nerding.
Fuck you, man.